What I've been thinking about and dreaming about is changing the world in my lifetime. And so I talked about and thought about a PhD idea called Operation Hope, which is today the largest financial inclusion organization in the country. 3 million clients, $2.5 billion invested in underserved neighborhoods, raising credit scores 120 points in 24 months, because nothing changes your life more than God or love than moving your credit score 120 points. Finding a way to help banks and now major employers to do well and do good, to reintroduce you back to yourself, to introduce something, pioneer something called financial well-being and something we call Hope Inside, that is now moving banks from the no business to the yes business, because a banker can't approve a loan at 580 credit score, but they can approve it at a 680 or a 700 credit score, but can't do the work in between. And employers need employees that are not depressed, that are not lacking personal morale and personal fiber. So Dr. Nita Ward, who's in the back of the room, is helping me lead this organization that's now the largest in the country for financial inclusion and financial well-being. And we're in Whole Foods, we're in Hyatt Hotels, we're in UPS, we're in Delta Airlines, we are in Tenet Healthcare, we're in 40 banks, 6 of which have decided we're 10% of their entire bank branch network, helping them to do well and do good, do well by doing good. And then I decided I wanted to move from PhD to PhD in a second area, and that was real estate, residential real estate. And it's a lazy business model. We call it the Promise Homes Company, and it's really funny, my friend Roy Spence used that phrase earlier today, so aspirational minds think alike. And that company we launched in June of this year, and it's now, and I launched it with 2 established hardcore billionaires who want to make a profit. But we are actually making a double-digit response, raising credit scores to 700, when treating a tenant as a resident, as a partner. And when they raise their credit score with us, which we give them for free, these services through Operation Hope, the organization I founded, which we contract with, when they raise their credit score to 700, we'll reduce their rent by 10% permanently. So some would say on Wall Street, well, John, you're losing money. I say, no, we're building wealth. Because I'm building a coupon income stream from reliable residents who pay like clockwork. And even though I'm making less in the short term, we're building more wealth in the long term. So that company is now the largest minority-controlled institutional quality owner of single-family rental real estate in the country, and we launched it in June. $130 million worth of capital. We'll own 1,000 homes by the end of December. And we're then going to our maintenance contracts, which we gave to some national company we never heard of before, who didn't care about the local community, and saying, you know, the plumbing jobs could go to local people with a high school education in that community. The AC jobs, the landscaping jobs, the roofing jobs, all the maintenance for these homes could be done by people in the community who have equivalent of a high school education and who are looking for a job, because the best way to stop a bullet in a neighborhood is a job. And they're resentful that people are coming in their community and taking and not reinvesting. So we're going to solve that by taking all these contracts and making all of them local, going from negative to positive. The third thing we're going to do is when you pay on time for 18 months, we're going to give you one month of life event credit, because middle-class folks don't get a break today. You're living from paycheck to paycheck. You got too much month at the end of your money. Okay, some of this is funny, and this is, I'm going really fast. I don't have a lot of time, but you got to get the coffee. It's in the back. And thanks for the charity laugh. And so we will give you a month of no payment of rent if you pay on time for 18 months. You pay on time for 5 years, we'll give you 3 months of no rent payments, and you just amortize that payment back to us over 24 months on the back end. And if you pay on time for that 5 years with us, we can give you an opportunity to buy the home you're renting from us, and boom, you create more home ownership in America at an affordable cost. Doing well by doing good, doing well by doing good, and getting an 11% return at the same time, and no appreciation. These people are making a lot of money, and I'm thinking you can make a lot of money and do really good at the same time. That's now 2 platforms that this dreamer created from Compton, California and South Central LA, which is where I was born, where I was raised. I was homeless for 6 months of my life when I was 18. for believing too much in my own press, for believing I was better than other people, for blaming poverty on the poor, not realizing I had an advantage on everybody else. My mother told me she loved me every day of my life. Nothing's more powerful, nothing, than a child being told that they are loved. My dad owned his own business for 54 years. So from my mother, I got a sense of yes, I am. My dad, I got a sense of yes, I can, but I didn't have a sense of what I could do. A banker came in my classroom, very much like the gentleman who introduced me, Greg, came in my classroom when I was 9 years old. I remember him as if it was yesterday, white shirt, red tie, blue suit, happened to be Caucasian, which is relevant to the story because in Compton, California, the only person you saw who was white in a suit was a detective, and it was a bad suit. So this guy was dressed really well. And I said to him, it was home economics class, which doesn't exist anymore. No one's teaching our kids how to raise a family, have a family budget, to leave their life in an economic world. It's little things like that. So I'm in this class, and this guy's blowing my mind with financial literacy. And very much like Raj has brought conscious capitalism or consciousness to capitalism, he was bringing financial literacy to an urban neighborhood. And for the first time, and I raised my hand, I said, "Excuse me, sir, excuse me, what do you do for a living? And how'd you get rich legally?" And I was dead serious because nobody in my neighborhood wore suits. Nobody in my neighborhood had a business card. Think about this now. Nobody in my neighborhood had a salary. They were all hourly workers. Nobody in the neighborhood had a white shirt. They were all blue shirts. Nobody, in fact, it wasn't even a collar, it was just a t-shirt. There were no skyscrapers in Compton, California, are no. There are two-story tilt-ups, most of them one-story. So where do you get this idea of an entrepreneur or of a small business owner? He said, "Young man," I said, "What do you do for a living?" He said, "Young man, I'm a banker and I finance entrepreneurs." I said, "Sir, I don't know what an entrepreneur is, but if you're financing them, I'm gonna be one." I went home, the endorphins popped in the right side of my brain about who I could be and what I could do. I went home, I realize now today that any kid with an identity project, you can change that kid's life. You can change America once they have an identity project. I cracked open the dictionary and looked at the word entrepreneur, a French word. It's really funny because the worst place to be an entrepreneur today is probably France. But and I said, "Mama, this is what I want to do." And I started looking through my neighborhood with a new map on my whole life. And I realized the liquor store sold candy, Mac's liquor store. I went to Mr. Mac, who I now knew was a businessman. I said, "Sir, you're selling the wrong kind of candy." He said, "Go away, little boy, I've got a college degree." I said, "That's nice, I've got cavities." "You're selling the wrong, I'm nine. He then hired me to be he wanted me to sell the candy because I had a gift for gab. I said, "I don't want that job. I want to be a box boy." He said, "This is the best job I've got. I don't want the job." He said, "That's the worst job I've got as a box boy." That's what job I want. Fine. Worked there for 3 weeks. Quit. Why? Research. I wanted to know what he was buying wholesale, what he was selling retail, what was the markup, what was his source, where did he get the product, what was selling and what was not. When I confirmed my thesis, I quit, went home, borrowed $40 from my mother because she wouldn't give it to me. She said, "Life is tough, pay my money back." We went to Smart & Final, a company that I now serve on the board of, owns that company today called Aries Management. We went to Smart & Final. The owners of Smart & Final then said, "Nice little boy, school project. We're going to give him some racks and some little encouragement here, and some extra candy," which I went home and ate. And then I brought the candy home, ate through half the inventory, sold the other half, had enough money to go back buy a new inventory, came back, made $300 a week when I was 10. I'm 51 now. Put the liquor store out of the candy business. What did that do to my self-esteem? What did that do to my confidence, my belief in myself? Nothing could change or stop me from that moment forward, and that's relevant to what comes next. Now, before you put the graph up, let me just say this. I want to explain to you all of our problems in America in about 2 minutes. The first minute I'm going to give you, give me 3 minutes. The first minute I'm going to give you, 2 minutes and then 1 minute, is a story you never heard. Here's the problem of everything going on in our nation. 1865, the best president we've ever had, President Abraham Lincoln, created a bank called the Freedmen's Bank. After the Emancipation Proclamation, after our Civil War, brothers against brothers, I don't know if you know it, but Lincoln's wife's brother was in the Confederate Army. Think about this now. Lincoln's wife's brother had vowed to kill Lincoln. So this was brother against brother, family member against family member. After he got this all sorted out, he created a bank, quote, to teach freed slaves about money. Wait a minute. You're telling me the most important thing, the most progressive president we've ever had, the most important thing that he could do after the Civil War was to create a bank to teach freed slaves about the free enterprise system, but it gets better. 2 months before that, you had Secretary of War Stanton and General Sherman go to Savannah, Georgia, because Atlanta had been burned down to the ground in the March to the Sea. And if you don't think conscious capitalism is important, we didn't win over the Confederacy because we had bigger tanks or bigger, back then, bigger cannons or larger armies. In many cases, we lost battles we should have won. We won because we won the psychological game, the confidence game. We broke the back of their own confidence. That's why we burned Atlanta to the ground. I don't know if you know that story. But Atlanta was burned to the ground as the March to the Sea. And that broke the back of the Confederate confidence. And so Atlanta, you couldn't meet in Atlanta where I live now. They met in Savannah, Georgia, and they asked 20 foreign ministers, what do you want, black ministers, after slavery? Did they say we want a handout program? Very good. Did they say we want a welfare program? They said we want land. You can't make this up. We want to do for our... See, this is just human nature. It's not black nature, brown nature, Latino nature, Asian nature. It's just human nature. They gave them 400,000 acres. We don't have time for the story, but I'm going to give you the crib notes because you're so smart, you'll do the research. It's called Field Action 15 if you want to do the research, and it was 400,000 acres from North Carolina down the coast, 30 miles in, all the way down to what you now call Miami, Florida. You say, my God, this beachfront property, that's fantastic. No, it's fantastic in 2018. It was crappy in 1865. Because 1865 was an agrarian age, and you made your money from the land, and probably the crappiest thing you can do is plant some seeds on the beach. Thank you for the charity laugh. You wake up in the morning and your crop's in Jamaica. But it was the only land they had available there wouldn't be another fight, so they gave them that land. And did folks complain about it? They just said, no, we'll take it. The next month, no Snapchat, no Facebook, no email, no Twitter, no cell phone, no nothing. 1,000 former slaves occupied the land, cultivated so well, they said, my God, look at the industriousness of these people. Give them a mule. Some of you understand what I just said. Some of you know your history. So you said it, say it. 40 acres and a mule. A mule, give somebody a mule back then was like saying, here's a tractor. It wasn't a handout, it was a hand up. The next month, that was February, the next month, here comes Lincoln sitting at his desk doing two things, signing the Field Action 15, which created the bank, and then putting in God we trust on U.S. currency, conscious capitalism. Because never again would slavery, something as immoral as slavery and government-backed capitalism ever meet. Lincoln was killed the next month, April 1865. A guy named Frederick Douglass decided to try to revitalize the bank. You might know him as an abolitionist from your history lessons. No, he was a businessman. He owned property, real estate in Baltimore and Washington, D.C. He was worth $6 million. Then he put $10,000 of his own money in this bank to try to save it, which is $20 million today. When the bank failed, had 73,000 depositors, $52 million, which would be $100 billion a day, making it one of the top 25 banks in the country today from former slaves. And it was said the failure of this bank did more to set free slaves in America back than 10 more years of slavery. And then you pop your fingers 100 years to Dr. King, not a capitalist, not a businessman, a preacher, 1968, Memphis, Tennessee, about representing poor whites, because there's more poor whites in America than poor anybody else then or now. Poor blacks, Latinos, Asians, Indians, and others, and he said this, quote, you cannot legislate goodness, you cannot pass a law to force someone to respect you. The only way to social justice in a capitalist country is economics and ownership. That's a quote you don't hear from Dr. King. And he was killed April 4th, 1968, before his first march of the Poor People's Campaign. Here's my message. It's not like poor people, struggling middle-class folks. If you're white middle class with too much month at the end of your money, this applies to you too, which is 70% of this country. It's not that you're dumb or you're stupid. It's what you don't know that you don't know that's killing you, but you think you know. You never got the memo. There's a memo on free enterprise, a memo on capitalism, a memo on ownership, a memo on opportunity. Most people just never got the memo. Let me now break the back of another false theory. Please put my one graph up. Whatever you've been told about poverty is wrong. Completely, utterly wrong. This is conscious capitalism. This is consciousness. So poverty has nothing to do with money. Nothing. Half of all poverty is low self-esteem and lack of confidence in yourself. If you don't know who you are by 9 in the morning, by dinner time, somebody's going to tell you who you are. Imagine trying to raise your children without confidence. They'll run over you. Can I get an amen? Amen. Imagine trying to run your business without consciousness and confidence. I'm not even dealing with self-esteem. I hope you have self-esteem, but self-esteem is how you feel about yourself. But without confidence, you can't run a thing. Now, half of all poverty is self-esteem and confidence. Let me just stop right there. So if you went through 350 years of slavery and 100 years of Jim Crow that ended in 1970, not 1870, well, you were told you aren't, excuse my French, shit for 400 years, it's a good chance you believe it, which means it's a good chance that 80% of black America is clinically undiagnosed depressed. You follow me? Clinically undiagnosed depressed. This is not about race. This is just common sense. So now you have the second part of poverty, which is role models and environment. So if all I see in my neighborhood as symbols of success are rap stars, athletes, and drug dealers, why is anybody surprised that I grew up wanting to be a rap star, athlete, or a drug dealer? I'm actually, it's good common sense. I'm modeling what I see. Why are you a businessman? You saw a businessman. Young lady, how is it you think you can come in here and be a leader? You saw a woman at some point and said, I can do that, yes or no?
Yes.
Have we ever talked?
No.
No, so we've never had this conversation. Sir, you saw a man growing up and who was a businessman or an entrepreneur or a builder and you said, I can do that, yes or no? Yes. What's your name?
Hugo.
Have we ever met before?
Yes.
We have. Have we had this conversation? Don't embarrass me. Okay. Let me find somebody I don't know. You, have we ever met before? Growing up, you saw somebody who was a businessman, an entrepreneur, a builder, and said, I can do that, yes or no? Yep. You, have we ever met before? Please say no.
No.
Okay. Eric, you saw somebody growing up who was a businessman, an entrepreneur, a builder, and said, I can do that, yes or no?
Yes.
This is not black story or white story or Latino story or Asian story or an American. This is good common sense. Role model, environment. Basically, because I don't have a lot of time, environment basically means if you hang around 9 broke people, you'll be the 10th. Whatever you hang around, you will be. You hang around 9 business people, 9 entrepreneurs, 9 real estate investors. Whatever you hang around, you will be. You model what you. Aspiration, that's a code word for hope. The most dangerous person in the world is a person with no hope. If I don't like me, I'm not gonna like you. If I don't feel good about me, I'm not gonna feel good about you. If I don't love me, don't expect me to love you. If I don't respect me, don't expect me to respect you. And here's the big one. If I don't have a purpose in my life, I'm gonna make your life a living hell. Because whatever goes around, comes around. So let me now snapshot poverty, crappy self-esteem and crappy confidence, crappy role models and a crappy environment. No hope, which means I see the glass of life as half empty, not half full. I never leave my porch. Here's wealth, high self-esteem and high confidence, great role models and enabling environment, high aspiration. I see opportunity everywhere. That's conscious capitalism. That's every entrepreneur you ever met. That's why you can walk into a neighborhood and see a tore-up property. It's been sitting there for 14 years. You can buy it, rehab it, and rent it to the same people who live in the same neighborhood because you get it and they do not. So what does all this mean? It means a couple things. You can take the graph down. Number one, it means you have 35 million black people in this country who never got a class in capitalism and free enterprise. That's dangerous. Let me give you, I know you guys are stats and facts people. Let me now summarize this, drop the mic, and give you some stats and some facts. We just partnered with FICO to do a national credit score index because I think that this conversation about race is wrong. I think we're on the wrong path. I think that this is not about race, it's not about politics. Before every social crisis, and we're in one, you have an economic crisis. That's happened before World War II in Germany. It's happened since the beginning of time. Let me say something else. We're sitting in a moment in history, ladies and gentlemen, right now. But history never feels historic when you're sitting in it. It just feels like another day. What are you going to do about it? Here's some stats. I told you some pretty bold stuff. Let me see if I can back it up. The richest state in America in 1830 was what? No trick questions. These are not trick questions. New York, nope. Virginia, nope. South Carolina, nope. Pennsylvania, nope. Nobody guesses this, so don't feel bad. Massachusetts, no. Georgia, nope. Louisiana, nope. You see how this is crazy? All these highly educated people, you're researchers, no. The richest state in America in 1830, 2 more tries. Delaware, nope. Whoa, I heard it. No, Connecticut, no. Mississippi. The Silicon Valley of America in 1830. And it was only the trading ports. I'm not going to break this down for you too deeply. They were trading a certain type of commodity. Yes. What's the poorest state in America today? Mississippi. What's the lowest credit score state in America? The lowest credit score state in America at 612. Mississippi. You have 4% of all Mississippi residents who make over $200,000 a year or more, which means if you want to be a doctor, who do you model? You want to be a lawyer, who do you model? You want to be an entrepreneur, who do you model? You want to be a small business owner, who do you model? So if all you see is poverty, if you hang around 9 broke people, you'll be the... Growing markets are diverse markets. This is not my opinion, this is just good common sense. The average credit score in America, above 700. What's the average credit score for African Americans? I just gave you the history. 44% of African Americans have a credit score below 620. Think about that. You can't get to the capital markets. You can't start a business. You can't get a business loan. You'll get a crappy home loan. You never got the memo on money. Half of America, blacks, brilliant, amazing, smart, intelligent, can't get out of their own way because they don't understand the free enterprise system. 15% of white America have a credit score below 620. That's 25 million people. Guess who voted last November? Because they're frustrated, upset, depressed, distressed. Their economy walked away from them 50 years ago with the Industrial Revolution, and they're looking for somebody to be their voice for their pain and somebody to blame. I abandoned my white rural brothers and sisters, and it's wrong. So when we open offices now, we're opening in rural America. Because whether you're white, black, red, brown, or yellow, you want to see some more green. Can I get an amen? So I can go, these statistics are amazing, but here's what we found, and I'm going to wrap up. Here's what we found. 700 credit score neighborhoods don't riot. It's okay to laugh. You won't get sued. You guys are uptight. I mean, it's okay. I'm black. I'm not from the NAACP. Just relax. If it makes you feel any better, you're all now honorary black people. So just see how my man's here like, yeah, I've always wanted. Somebody said it before me, take life seriously. Don't take yourself too seriously. By the way, do you know that 99.9% of all human DNA is precisely the same? I mean precisely the same. We argue over 1/4 of 1% of human DNA that governs eye color, skin color, complexion, stuff that literally does not matter. Why are people dark in Africa? Because it's hot. I'm getting off script, but I got a minute. To me, we're just rearranging the deck chairs in the Titanic. Like you go across out of this country, everybody wants to be an American but Americans. We're too busy arguing with each other about stuff that doesn't matter. Like Africa's hot, the sun is direct. So you don't see a brother, black translation, black person. You don't see a brother with skin cancer. because that pigmentation of his skin has been adapted to hot weather. And the kinkiness of the hair is brilliant. God is amazing because the softest part of your brain, the softest part of your body is over your brain. If your brain cooks, you're done. God made your hair kinky to absorb and dissipate the heat rays so that your brain wouldn't cook. The nose is wide to serve as a cooler for the air and air conditioner before it goes into your lungs, because if hot air goes in your lungs, you're done. Our lips are big. I don't know why, but everybody wants them. Injection, injection, injection. As you go farther up in the, by the way, you want to really freak yourself out? Go look at a map and look at North America and South America. Look at Africa and Europe and take the water out of the middle. Click. Because we were once one. Pull away from the globe and watch the lines fall away. Because the universe didn't do that to us. We did that to us. We separated us from us. You go far enough in Europe, in northern Africa, and you get to Morocco, where people are olive skinned and have loosely curled hair because the sun is less direct. You jump over that puddle of water called the Mediterranean. You get into southern France and Italy. And by the way, you don't believe my thesis? Italian guys who pinch women's rear end, the only Italians who pinch rear ends, those are brothers. So you, come on, that's funny stuff. As you go up into Europe and it gets colder, and you get into the Nordic countries, my friend Crown Prince Haakon is in Norway, where it's very cold, where even you look black. The skin absorbs cold weather. The nose is narrow to heat the air before it goes into your lungs. The hair is stringy to cover your ears, because if your ears get cold, you're done. You see, it all makes sense. But it has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with preferences. It has to do with survival. But how do we go from surviving in America and surviving in our world to thriving in our world? How do we go from fear to love? There's two things in the world. There's love and there's fear. Roz talks about this. And what I know, there's two things in the world, love and fear. And what you don't love, you fear. And the reason this world is all screwed up is that too many of our so-called leaders are leading by fear. Back to the stats and then I'm done, because I know I'm boring you. I just mentioned that the 700 credit score neighborhood don't riot of any race. There's never been a riot in a 700 credit score neighborhood in America's history, because people in a 700 net credit score neighborhood don't want to riot, they want to go shopping. 500 credit score neighborhoods riot. And here's what they look like. Urban and rural, black and brown. Sorry, urban, black and brown. Rural, white, high school educated. Here's what they look like. A check casher next to a payday loan lender, next to a rent-to-own store, next to a title lender, next to a liquor store. That's a 500 credit score neighborhood who never got the memo on money, free enterprise, capitalism, who's full of hopelessness. That graph I just had up, everything I just mentioned on that graph on the poverty side is what you find in these neighborhoods, and their lives are lacking aspiration. But I think that's the future of America. I think a drug dealer, illegal and immoral, is a special place in hell reserved for somebody who sells death to their own community. But what I understand about a drug dealer is this: they may be stupid, but they're not dumb. They understand import and export, finance and marketing, wholesale, retail, customer service, security, territory, logistics. You're not talking about a dumb person. You're talking about a misdirected person with no role models, no guidance, no memo. So what if we move the needle 10%? The book, The Tipping Point, says that if 5% of role models, every community stabilizes. Not 100% role models, not 50%. The cynic will say, well, you're conscious capital. What can you guys do? What can you do? You're only a few hundred people. Do you know that Dr. King had 70 employees? 70! His budget was $500,000 a year, and he was broke every Tuesday. And he changed the world and did it without firing a shot, because he had the power of an idea. So here's my question to you. Because we're raising these credit scores neighborhood by neighborhood, 120 points. We have opened now 100 locations of Hope Inside. going into employers and corporations and banks, getting them out of the no business back into the yes business. We have orders now for 600 locations. We've only been at this for 3 years. We went back to the Treasury Department. I'm the only American citizen ever to rename a building on the White House campus because I went back and said, that building that you call Treasury Annex across from Treasury, that was a Freedmen's Bank building. And we got Secretary Jack Lew last year to rename it. Don't trust me, go to your phone. This guy's full of caca. And research Freedmen's Bank or Treasury Annex, and you'll see history in the making. We changed the name. And now we're gonna change the game because we're gonna move these communities to something that's highly aspirational. And what happens if we do it with 10%? The book, The Tipping Point, Malcolm Gladwell said this, I'm almost done. At 5% role models, every community stabilizes. 5%. What if we move at 10%? Don't you wanna have a legacy? I'm talking to you. Don't you want to have a legacy? Yes. We all want to have a legacy. We all want the world to know we were here. We live as something larger and more important than ourselves. So here's my question. I'm out of time. What kind of bird do you want to be? There are 3 types of people like 3 types of birds. There are eagles, there are buzzards, and there are turkeys. Eagles don't fly in packs. You've never seen a flock of eagles. An eagle is a high-altitude bird. There's a regalness, not an arrogance, there's a regalness to an eagle. The eagle even raises their children differently. An eagle's nest is made of sharp little twigs. Message, you get big enough and you pushing up to the inside of that nest, you need to get up and go get a job. You cannot be 48 years old living with your mama. Some of you are not laughing because you got a 40-year-old child still at home. That's why you're not laughing. But an eagle is a high altitude bird. But you have another kind of bird. So everybody's not gonna understand you. Everybody's not gonna get you. It is the road less traveled. It is the road. Rainbows only follow storms. Loss creates leaders. Of course you're different. That's why the world needs you. But then you got buzzards. Buzzards love packs. Buzzards are low altitude birds. Buzzards are always stepping on your head to elevate themselves. Here's what we say in my neighborhood. They're always player hating, never player congratulating, always have something negative to say about somebody. But the worst kind of bird is a turkey. Because a turkey's got wings and can't even fly. All they do is profile. Trying to be something they are not. You have an opportunity to show other corporate leaders how to lead in a fear-based world, to give them a signal that it's okay to be good, to be decent, to be honest, to have integrity, to treat your employees like they're the true assets of your company that they represent, to treat your customers like they're shareholders, your communities like they're made you rich because they have. To lift up this country, because as they lift the country up, you get lifted up. So here's my question. What kind of bird do you want to be? Before you answer, remember this. The Bible says, be hot or be cold, but if you're lukewarm, I'll spat you out. Translation, even God doesn't like mediocrity. Do not in this moment be ashamed. Do not in this moment wonder what the person next to you is going to say about how loud you're going to scream. For a moment, be a child again. For a moment, be a child again. Here's my question. Make this conference worthwhile. What kind of bird do you want to be? Eagles! I'm done.